All right, so Happy New Year, guys. Thank you so much for all your support in 2023, and I hope you have an amazing 2024. Today, we're going to be starting off things right. We're going to be talking about decks that are going to dominate the meta post Phantom Nightmare. Please chime in with your thoughts in the comments down below, as well as like the video if you enjoy it. So let's go ahead and get started. The first deck I want to talk about is naturally going to be Snake Eyes Fire King. This deck is completely taking over the OCG, especially now post their ban list, and I think it's going to be very, very similar over here as well. So it's kind of similar to Rescue Ace and all of these mid-range decks. It is a mid-range deck that's getting boosted with the Snake Eye cards a lot. The new stuff from the structure deck is very, very solid. Don't get me wrong. Some people are already playing Fire King with Dogmatica and Tri Brigade and stuff like that. But post Phantom Nightmare, this deck is really going to shine because the new Snake Eye cards are going to give it consistency. You want to access your Onyx, which is really, really important since you're benefiting a lot off of destroying it, and also it always returns in the standby phase, so you almost have unlimited resources if you think about it. Your Garunix, which is one of the new support cards, triggers when something gets destroyed, and in your standard combo you're going to be able to access Island with Onyx, destroy the Onyx, trigger Garunix, and then destroy something else and continue with your plays. We also need to talk about Kirin, which is another one of their new cards. It does not target if it destroys. You can read through the card. If it gets destroyed, it's going to be able to revive, and also non-targeting pop. So they have a lot of interesting interruption that they can pretty much throw at you. And also all of this gets complemented by a lot of link monsters that are really strong. SP, for example, and IP being a really important part of the combo actually, since you're also utilizing Snake Eyes Flamberge Dragon, which throughout your combo you can access it. And then with its help, you also revive 2 level 1 monsters from your graveyard, which are usually going to be both Snake Eye cards. And then you're also able to place IP in the Spell and Trap card zone and also bring it out from the Spell and Trap card zone during your opponent's turn for an additional disruption. This deck is very similar to Unchained in the sense where it doesn't put up a board that looks insanely threatening. It just has a ton of layered interruption. So you deal with one thing, but they have like 3 other things to deal with your cards. Promethean Princess is another card from Phantom Nightmare we have to mention. It is going to be insane in pretty much any fire deck, and Fire King is going to be at the forefront of all of that. It revives a fire monster during the main phase, locks you into fire while it is face up on the field, but you can just make Amblueo and have the princess in the graveyard because it also has a very good effect there. Like, it's almost a custom card if we're being completely real. So yeah, it's able to destroy 2 cards, your fire monster and then your opponent's card, and then also bring itself out. So it's a new resource for you to help you on the crackback. It's actually insane. And okay, let's address Bonfire and Maze of Millennia and all of that. There's 2 important cards coming out of that set, but we're only going to be talking about Bonfire just for now. So it is a Pyro Rota, which is amazing. You know, it's really insane what 2024 is going to bring us. But yes, consistency is key, and this is going to boost any kind of fire deck pretty much. So you can access most of your deck and get your plays going. And then also in the OCG, they started to they developed this interesting OTK with Raging Phoenix and Zealantis, which is really cool. These cards are probably going to be included in our deck as well, so you can look into getting them as well if you're trying to play Fire King in the next meta. And yeah, overall, you're pretty much ending on all of these different interruptions. You can quick Xyz during your opponent's turn, blow up their entire field, and also you have enough space to play a fairly decent amount of non-engine. It's like 12 hand traps probably easily, since you have a whole ton of 1-card combos, and that's obviously really important. So yeah, Fire King is going to be insanely dominant, but let's not sleep on another fire deck, which is Rescue Ace. So let me pull up a Rescue Ace deck list, and yes, Airlifter is limited now. This is important, but still, Airlifter limit, what it did for the deck is it lessened the consistency, but Bonfire is going to give the consistency back to the deck. And also the new support, which I didn't mention before when I mentioned Fire King, I guess we can talk about it now. We have Populous coming out of Phantom Nightmare as well. So a really, really good monster, a level 1 fire, which obviously works in tandem with everything Sinful Spoils and Snake Eye. It's able to be special summoned from your hand if it gets added there, except by drawing it. So you can search it with Bonfire or Snake Eye Ash or the likes, and you can special summon it out. It's very free because it puts itself in the spell and trap card zone if it's sent off from the field. So it's a completely free card to get rid of with original Sinful Spoils, which it actually also searches. It's a really good card, insane card actually. So yes, Airlifter going to 1 is kind of terrible if we're being completely honest, because Rescue Ace was already struggling with consistency. But with all the new cards, you should be completely fine. And what Rescue Ace was actually doing has always been decent, to say the least. One Turbulence Resolving is just amazing and just puts you so ahead, and you can do it again on the following turn with Headquarters. You have a really, really good grind game, and I think that's really going to be so important moving forward. And yeah, you can also implement the Promethean Princess as well, so very similar to Fire King. To me, it just seems that Fire King not having any kind of hits, obviously the deck is going to be slightly better. It has also a really good grind game and can play through Interruption. So yeah, it might be a tiny bit better than Rescue Ace. And if you look at OCG, the representation is pretty much similar over there as well when it comes to both of these decks. And they have Airlifter at 2. But yeah, we can still compare our meta to it. So I think Rescue Ace is going to be really strong still, and definitely a very formidable threat. Now, since we're still on the topic of fire decks, you know, I guess the next deck also has to be fire related. It's just pure Snake Eyes. Again, judging by the OCG, I feel like this deck can be really popular here as well, because it's pretty much, you know, if you take like Rescue Ace or Fire King or whatever, you strip away the other engine and you just keep all the Snake Eye cards, you bump up the count and you play a couple more of the other ones. There's Birch and also Oak, if I'm not mistaken. And you can also play their other spells and a trap card as well. So again, it's going to be a fire mid-range deck with a lot of one-card combos that gets you to your SP, your Promethean Princess, and plays enough hand traps to stop your opponent while you're doing all of that. So very, very similar, but it's just going to be able to achieve all of this through playing just Snake Eye cards. What we can do is we can mention some of their spells and trap cards that the other decks are not running, so you can know what's up with that. So a lot of their interruption has to do with cards being treated as continuous spells and traps in the back row. For example, they can play their field spell, Divine Temple of the Snake Eye, which basically, if it's activated, you can place one Snake Eye monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard face up in the owner's spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. And level 1 monsters that are fire, you control, gain 1100 attack, and once per turn, if your opponent normal or special summons a monster, except during the damage step, you can target one monster card on the field that's treated as a continuous spell, special summon it to your field. So it has to do a lot with that. There's also Sinful Spoils of Subversion Snake Eye, which is just removal in the form of putting a face-up monster on the field in the spell and trap card zone, treated as a continuous spell. Obviously the spell and trap card zone of the owner. And there's also the Sinful Spoils trap card, which says send one Diabellstar monster from your hand or face-up field to the grave, then target one face-up card on the field and negate its effect. And then when your opponent activates a card or effect in response to your Diabellstar monster effect, or a Sinful Spoils spell and trap card effect or activation, you can banish this card and negate the opponent's effect. So it's just a lot of layered interruption, which features pretty much just Snake Eye cards. I think this deck is also going to be really nice. Yeah, pretty much anything that plays Diabellstar and Wanted and all of that is going to be broken. All right, so let's shift gears. Let's talk about Labyrinth. So I said that one of the cards coming out of Maze of Millennia is Bonfire, which is obviously really good, and the other one is Transaction Rollback. Transaction Rollback, I'm gonna pull it up and we're gonna read through it. It's actually insane, and it's going to boost up Labyrinth a lot, and that's why Labyrinth able to hang in there in the OCG meta. So transaction rollback says, pay half your life points and target one normal chap in your opponent's grave, except transaction rollback. This effect becomes that normal chap effect when that card is activated. You can manage this card from your graveyard and pay half your life points and target one normal chap in your grave, except transaction rollback. This effect becomes that normal chap effect when that card is activated. So the second effect is obviously the most important one, and you're locked into using only one of the effects. You get to pitch this for your furniture, which makes it free discard fodder, and then in the graveyard, you copy your normal chap card. If your big welcome or welcome get ashed or belt, that's really, really bad. Like pretty much if you're the Labyrinth player, like you're set so far behind, it's very, very tough to recover. But with transaction rollback, you don't need to worry anymore because you can just copy your effect and, continue as if nothing happened. You're just copying the effect. So no limit of big welcome or welcome of being able to be only used once per turn. For example, big welcome says you can only use one big welcome effect per turn and only once that turn. But what you're doing with transaction rollback is you're just activating an effect that copies an effect. So no limitation is going to hinder you in any way. And that's why Labyrinth is going to be able to hang in there because it's already a really strong deck. The issue was playing or not playing through Ash and Bell. And right now with transaction rollback, you don't need to worry anymore. So this deck is actually going to be so insane. Chaos Angel is a busted part of this deck, and you can play it in many different ways. You can do it, like a lot of people right now are playing it with a very high furniture count, so you can disrupt your opponent on turn 0 a lot of times, and you're playing it as if you're using just hand traps in a sense, but it's part of your engine. And then you can also do it in a way where you play very trap card heavy, if that's what you feel like doing. There's a lot of flexibility in that deck, but there's a lot of power as well. So yeah, I think Labyrinth is going to be a very, very formidable threat moving forward. And as for the last deck, so let me know what you think, which deck has to make today's list, but since we're on the topic of Phantom Nightmare, I simply had to include the Voiceless Voice deck. There's other decks that probably could make the list, like Manodium is going to be really good and some other decks, but let's talk about the Voiceless Voice stuff because it's new and from Phantom Nightmare, and I actually think this deck is going to be good. Now, some people say it's not as good as Dryshot. It's obviously a ritual deck, but I disagree. There's a lot of one-card combos, meaning you can play more non-engine, and it's also doesn't seem that fragile, so it's able to actually play through interruption as well. And what you're doing is you're making all these ritual monsters that are actually good. There's a lot of negation, like spell negation, omni negation, all of that. You can also search your Sauravis, and you can just put up a very nice board through like 1 to 2 card combos, which is amazing. So let's check out the Skull Guardian, the Voiceless Voice Protector, which is their ritual monster. You can ritual summon it with Voiceless Voice Prayer. It gains 2050 attack, while Novox, the Voiceless Voice Disciple, is on your field. So Novox is also really strong. It's an important part of the deck. And yeah, basically the effects of the Skull Guardian are, if it's a ritual summon, you can also search for a Voiceless Voice monster or a warrior or dragon ritual monster, and when your opponent activates a card or effect, well, you control Novox, so again it's revolving around her. As a quick effect, you can negate the activation if you do destroy that card. You can also play Odd Eyes Pendulum Graph Dragon, which is really cool. I really love pendulum stuff, and it's so cool to be able to include Odd Eyes in this deck. So when your opponent activates a spell card or effect, quick effect, you can place this card in your pendulum zone, and if you do, negate that effect. And then you're also able to special summon an All-Eyes monster from your extra deck. I'm not sure if that applies, but okay. Let's talk about Novox. If you ritual summon exactly one light warrior or ritual or dragon ritual monster with a card effect that requires use of monsters, this card can be used as the entire tribute. So a lot of times ritual decks are just kind of weird because, consistency is not really there. You have to draw into very specific things. But with Dryshot, they started to do things their own way, and that's pretty much what the Voiceless Voice deck is doing as well. So this can be used as the entire tribute, which is amazing. And if it's normal or special summon, you can place one Voiceless Voice continuous spell or trap card from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone. And then also, if a light warrior or dragon ritual monster is special summoned while this card is in the grave, you can special summon it back. So Yes, okay. Let's talk about Saurabis. Saurabis can be searched in this deck, and you probably know it because it's able to dodge targeting negation, negate something, you know, if it targets your card. But if it's actually on the field, it has a really good effect. No one is ritual summoning the card though. So if it's ritual summoned, when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a monster you control, that's the first part of the effect. But when your opponent would special summon a monster, quick effect, you can return this card to the hand and negate the special summon. So you're negating an inherent summon if it's on the field, and I think that's really good. And I guess I also wanted to talk about their trap card, and that's pretty much going to round off the video. Again, you're putting up a ton of layered interruption, negation, and you're playing through things while keeping a lot of hand traps. So I think this deck is going to be good. Let's read through the trap card as well. So during the main phase, you can activate one of these effects. You're able to shuffle one Light Warrior or Dragon Ritual monster or one ritual spell from your hand or grave into the deck. If you do, you're able to search for a Voiceless Voice monster or special summon it. And you also get to target cards your opponent controls up to the number of your Light Warrior or Dragon Rituals, and you destroy both. So it's up to, which is really, really good. There's no limitation. And yeah, I don't know. I think this deck is looking really, really promising, and I would love to see it do well with, you know, Jaichon not being that insane for some time now. But please let me know which deck you think has to make the list. And if you like the video, make sure to like it as well, and make sure you ding the bell so you are notified when I post new stuff. Again, Happy New Year! Thank you so much for everything, and I hope we have an amazing year together. And I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.